Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Discourse. We have a .5 episode. We haven't had one of those in quite a while in the last few weeks, and it's for something that I've been looking forward to, that I know people here have been looking forward to, and that is our non-spoiler discussion for Scream. No, not the 1996 film. We already did that, and I highly recommend going ahead and listen to that because that was a great episode. I believe that was Discourse episode 5. If I can be specific. But no, this is for Scream 2022, Scream 5, or just Scream, whatever you want to call it. They've adopted the Halloween 2018 naming scheme, but I think that's on purpose. And we have had some people here who have seen the movie. I have also seen the movie, and I just kind of wanted to go over like everyone's general thoughts about it. And I'll start off by saying I like the movie. I did enjoy it. However, I think I might have hurt myself by seeing something like Scream 4, which I'm sorry is great. It's super underappreciated, as I was saying off mic, but I feel like it didn't measure up to something like Scream 4. However, not saying that it's a bad movie. I think it does a lot of things right, but I do think it makes a number of missteps and is maybe not as inspired as something like Scream 1 or 2 or 4. Thankfully, it's better than 3. Anyone who's like, oh, God, is this Scream 3 territory? It is not. I feel like it's not. It's definitely better than that movie. I mean, you at least should do that if you're taking over a franchise. Be better than the third one. But starting off from the top, I'm going to go over the pauses what I really liked about the movie. I thought it had a very strong opening. We get the introduction of Jenny Ortega's character as Tara Carpenter, kind of like a play on the original opening from the original movie, and incorporating some modern day sensibilities too. I thought that was great. I thought Roger Jackson, who's of course returning to voice Ghostface, did a great job along with Jenny Ortega's performance. It was brutal. The choreography was really cool. I was like, okay, shit, this is a nice strong opening. I like what the movie is also critiquing throughout, where the fourth one was more of a critique on reboots and remakes, which were happening around that time throughout the 2000s and into the early 2010s. This is very much an examination on fandom and toxic fandom, which we have just seen spring up over the last decade. Not that it's like it never existed before. It's probably already there, but the internet has given it a microphone, if you will. It's broadcasted loud and clear, sadly. And so I liked what the film was critiquing. Also, much like the fourth one, I felt like the kills and the violence, very well choreographed, very brutal. There's going to be some stuff you're going to see. It's like, ooh, I liked a lot of the good practical effects in this movie. Very, very solid. And there are some references throughout to the franchise that I thought were handled well. There are some obvious ones, some very subtle ones that even I missed that I was informed about. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And so if you are a Scream fan, you see these things in the background or someone says something, you're like, it'll chuck it out of you. You'll smile. They don't make it so obvious, which is something that I really appreciate. When it comes to performances, and this is something that I like and also dislike. Only a couple of the new characters we're introduced to do I have like really any affection for. As I mentioned before, Jenny Ortega, who is one of the co-leads in this movie. I think she does a great job. They put her through the fucking ringer, and she sells being someone who has been stabbed repeatedly and maimed. I really liked her performance, so she brings a lot of emotion to this. The comic relief character of Jack Quaid, he's great. I mean, I already love Jack Quaid. You've seen him in The Boys. He's fantastic in. And here he is firing on cylinders. He's very, very funny. He gets some of the best lines in the movie. In a way, he's almost like the audience avatar character, if you will. And when it comes to the legacy characters, I think David Arquette really kills it in this movie as Deputy Dewey, as this guy who has just been hurt by life emotionally, certainly physically over the years, where he's just so sad. Like a lot of people were suspecting, he is sad dad Deputy Dewey now. He's just so pathetic in how he's living and how his relationship just didn't seem to work out with Gail. Now, other than that, I have to say there were some things that really did disappoint me. And the lack of Neve Campbell and Courtney Cox in this movie was one of those things. They don't really start to come until I would say the last the last third of the movie, and we do see a lot of them. And if those of you who are, like the big attracting point, I think, to a lot of these films, a lot of these franchises have been long going, is bringing back these legacy actors, been a part of them for, in this case, 25 years. And if you're going in there hoping to see a lot of Neve Campbell, then I think you're going to be disappointed. Not that she's bad, not that Courtney Cox is bad. I think they're both good, but they are definitely underused. And I'm sorry, but after seeing something like Scream 4, where I thought they balanced the new characters, the old characters a lot better, here I definitely felt an imbalance, and that did bother me. And speaking of the characters, I mentioned Jack Quaid, I mentioned Jenny Ortega, but like this new cast, I felt was kind of underdeveloped. Not that they were bad, not that like anyone was bad. And we do see Randy's niece and nephew of Chad and Mindy Meeks Martin coming in here. Or Martha Meeks Returns, which everyone knew apparently. Oh, everyone knows Martha Meeks. It's like, no, you guys, she didn't exist till Scream 3, whatever. But I felt like, okay, I'm supposed to like these characters and get within this like dynamic, understand their friend dynamic. But I guess that was the thing, like them and some of their other friends. We also have the oh God, what's his name? The character of Wes, who of course is named after Wes Craven. Dylan Minnette, who's been in a ton of things over the years. I know him from Goosebumps. I just, for whatever reason, I just never bought into their friend dynamic. And because I guess there was just this consistent finger pointing from everyone, like, no, you're the suspect, you're the killer. And it wasn't done as much in like a tongue-in-cheek kind of way or half-serious way as like the previous films. Like, in the original Scream, when we have that famous scene of them sitting out in front of the water fountain, like that scene from Friends, and talking to each other. It just felt like super accusatory and super aggressive. I was like, I don't buy that any of these people are friends. And so this kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And I just didn't feel like they had enough for them to do. And there I think there is, for the first time, probably since 3, I do feel like there's a bit of a pacing issue in the movie. And it's in the middle. And I guess more towards the middle end. I can't get into too many specific details, but it's leading up to the big third act scene. And I felt like, okay, we're not doing much, nothing interesting. A lot of people are in cars in this movie. A lot of people are just driving cars. I was like, okay, we can cut down some of this driving car stuff. I thought it was a little unnecessary. And one thing which I got to be careful how I say, there's a recurring CGI thing in this movie that I was very surprised by. I thought, oh, this is interesting. But the more it happened, the more I'm like, I don't like this. And it references something from the past. And I would have preferred had they just handled that thing, which, if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. I wish they would have handled that thing just with dialogue, because that's what they've kind of done with the previous movies, or audio. I didn't need that. If you can't make it look good in CGI, then don't do it, in my opinion, because it's just going to stick out like a sore thumb. But also, I was not a big fan of the new final girl, if you will, the who is the lead of this movie, which is Melissa Barrera as Samantha Sam Carpenter, the older sister, the older estranged sister of Jenny Ortega's Tara Carpenter. I don't know. I just didn't find her particularly interesting. I know that she was supposed to be like Neve Campbell, Sidney Prescott, but I just was never really charmed by her. Again, I thought she was underwritten. What they have for her, the thing that is so important to her character, the way in which they chose to showcase it, kind of took me out of it. But like I said, I certainly think it's better than 3. I like its commentary. There are some good performances. It just needed a punch up. It really did need a punch up for some of these characters and make me feel like, okay, they are friends. And just the sudden instant mistrust, that kind of took me out of it a little bit. So overall, I really enjoyed it. I mean, it's this Scream still maintains its number 1 ranking in terms of being the most consistent horror franchise out there, in my opinion. But bit of a letdown after seeing something like Scream 4, which I had just seen recently, and I'm like, wow, I don't know why people didn't like this movie. I really liked it. But that's just my opinion on it. We have several other people who have seen this movie, and I want to go to each and every single one of them. And I thought, you know what, Luke the Boss, you have seen this movie. How did you feel about it? Brings up the positives, negatives, or however else you felt.
Well, I liked it okay, but like you said, because I was thinking about it last night after I saw it, and I was like, do I like this better than Scream 4? And after thinking about it, the answer is no. I like Scream 4 more. And it's okay. I mean, like I said, I give it a matinee.
Mhm,
Like I wouldn't I would I wouldn't pay full price. Not me,
mhm.
but
Yeah,
but um but it was I saw it in a nice theater, and
that's always good. So, yeah,
um
no, believe me, your setting, it makes the viewing experience a lot better. That can affect it, so I understand that.
yeah. And so let me see how I could phrase this without getting into anything specific.
Yeah, I know. I gotta
That
be
thing,
careful too.
yeah, that CGI thing from the past that you're talking about, I was like, "Uh, maybe this could be cool." And it never really bothered me too much, but I was like, I feel like they could have traded that out for something else,
Yeah,
you
agreed,
know,
agreed.
and I was like, okay. But overall, yeah, you're right. The characters, some of them are pretty bland. Um, I I liked Randy's niece and nephew. I mean, they were
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah, they're okay,
I'm
agreed.
trying. Yeah, they're okay. And but one thing that I think I like the final girl, as you say, more than you. I mean,
Sure.
I didn't think she was great, but I liked her like decent enough. Like you could tell like she was acting, like she wasn't
Mm,
like just stumbling through. Like you could tell, like,
sure.
okay, they told her to say this, and she was, saying it with conviction, and
Mhm.
that they she has a scene with her sister, and
That's a good scene.
the scene I'm
You're right.
talking about. Yeah, I was like, I like that scene, and then yeah, Jenny Ortega, she's good too,
I was very impressed with
and
Jenny Ortega.
hmm yeah, because I'd seen her in some stuff. Like I seen her in I saw her in
Mhm.
she was in this one show called Jane the Virgin. She played like a
Oh, yeah.
younger Jane the and yeah, she was good in this. And let me see, I'm trying to think. Uh and again, not spoiling anything, but
Sure.
I don't think I like the motive as good in this one as I did before. I'm just gonna say it. I
I'm
don't know
very
about you.
no, I'm sorry, keep going.
Oh no, I was gonna ask you like how do you feel about that?
Oh, see, I'm so, it's interesting because I had, as you guys know, I had my own expectations of going into this movie, and they were big expectations. However, it's like, I'd be like, I gotta put my fandom, I gotta put, it's funny, put my fandom, which is what the movie's commenting on, and my
Yeah.
expectations to the side. But I totally understood. I definitely understood their motivation. I bought into that. That felt like, of course, that would be the natural thing they're going to comment next after social media and wanting to seek fame, and using social media to get that fame. Where I felt like that wasn't appreciated for its time, and now it is. I feel like this right here, maybe it won't be appreciated for its time, but then years down the road, it will be because we're currently immersed in it right now. I liked its commentary on fandom and toxic fandom. I really
Uh,
dug that.
you know what? I did like the commentary on like the toxic fandom,
Hmm.
but I don't. It feels like some of it was. It kind of toes the line between being heavy-handed and being like right to the point. So I guess it just depends on how you walk into it. But you know what? I take it back. I don't mind the motive as
Hmm.
much as I don't. I don't like how it gets to that point. I won't say anything else, but I don't like how it gets to that point.
I
But
get,
you're
I
right.
get what you're saying. I get
Yeah.
what you're saying. I'll say
But
this. Yeah, I can't even spoil something.
yeah.
Uh, Something to do with Ghostface. I was not. I didn't like, and it's in regards to a performance. That's all I'll say. And because I can't get into more detail. But no, but overall, you liked it, but just not nearly as much as something like Four, the most recent screen before this one.
Yes, that's correct.
Cool.
And I want to say one more thing, but I
Please.
don't know if if it, um,
What's it referencing? What's
can
it in
I
regards
say
to?
it's referencing Wes? Is that a big thing or no?
Well,
Just,
the character of Wes. I mean, you can go into details about Wes. I think that's safe.
well, just who he is, like his,
His
just,
mom.
yeah.
Oh, that's not a spoiler.
Is that
That's
a
out
big
there.
thing? Okay. All right. Well, Okay, so his mom, of course, is the sheriff, Judy Hicks,
Lemon
and
squares.
yeah, and so, but I just thought it was funny because there's this one scene with him, and he's talking with Randy's niece, and
Hmm.
she's like, it's like, oh yeah, the killer's going after these certain people, and he's like, well, my mom's part of the, that group, and he's like, we're not talking about the shitty sequels, Wes,
Yeah, they use
and
a certain word to
but
describe it. Yeah.
yeah, but that's funny because who they're related to, and it's
Hmm.
like, don't you know she was in the shittiest sequel of all? I don't know. That was just funny.
It was
Like,
it wasn't even that. I was like, it was like lesser. I think they said like lesser sequels, but it was kind of like a dig at
I like.
four, and I'm like, all right, I didn't care for that. Well,
No, no,
I get what
no,
they
but
were doing.
that's what I was saying because it's like they dug at four, but like they're related to what's her face who was in
Judy's
three,
character.
and
Oh,
no, they're related because they say, oh, we're related to oh, what's his name? Is this um uh is it Randy?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, Randy. They're related to Randy, but
Hmm.
they're also related to his sister, because that's their mom,
Hmm.
and she was in three, and so they're talking shit about four. And it's like, come on, y'all are related. Says like, really, y'all are only related to mainly related to your mom, which was in three, and it's like, come on, man, like, which
Yeah,
is the
they
worst
took a
sequel?
dig at
Yeah,
themselves without even realizing it.
yeah,
But they think if they think three is
yeah,
better than four, then they're goddamn crazy. Yeah,
yeah,
it was fun that they brought back, Martha. I was like, oh, okay, she got a little cameo. I think that was cute. But
yeah. She got a little bit. That is cool.
yeah, but so yeah, so overall, you enjoyed it, but not as much as something like four, the most recent sequel. You
Yes,
gave it a
correct.
you gave it a matinee. Cool. M. Xavier, I'm sorry. Did you
Matinee.
mention that you had seen the movie as well, or no?
No, I haven't seen the movie.
Okay. Okay. No, I just want to check. Well, moving on from Luke, Hasfe, you have seen this film. What did you think about it? Positives, negatives? Where do you fall?
Um, well, overall, I really enjoyed it. Although, like, I would say I agree a bit about it dragging in the middle, but
Mm.
for me, it was just one of those things where it felt more like they were juggling not only a whole bunch of different characters, but like different generations of characters that are appealing to different parts of the audience. And
Mm.
towards like, okay, how are they going to pull this out? How are they going to bring this together? But for me, it worked. Like, it took a while to revisit the friend group again, but when they did, the scenes they had together at least gave the character, it made them feel a bit rounded. But
Hmm.
I don't know. The thing about like how a lot of teen friend groups are so shitty to each other, because you're right. In both this movie and, in my opinion, the fourth movie, too, to believe that these people were friends. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know. It's also the fact that, like, I've spent a lot of time up until recently, up until COVID, I spent a lot of time at a community college where I was surrounded by a lot of people who just got out of high school. It was actually
Hmm.
really annoying the way they would talk about each other. So it's not too far fetched that it would play out like that. But I don't know. And also, kids have more twisted sense of humor since they're exposed
Mm.
to more things.
No, that's a good.
Anyway,
That's a good point. I just want to say, no, you're right about that because, yeah, of course, friends in high school talk shit about each other behind each other's back. No, you're right. That is a good point, and maybe it's like a personal bias of mine. It's like I hate when friends don't act like friends. It's like
I do
Jesus
too.
Christ. But you're right. You're right. I mean, people talk shit behind each other's back. I think it was more. It was more that they were talking. You know what it was? I know what it was. I could point at it. It wasn't that they were talking shit behind each other's back, because they were talking shit to each other,
True.
like right
No,
in
I
their
see that
faces.
too. It's just I've seen it where people say they're being playful, although if you're an outsider, if you're not part of that group, it at
Mm.
times can sound malicious, or at least that I've been surrounded by, or maybe it's just the theater department at that school, I don't know. But it's just I could buy it,
Okay.
like young people are kind of shitty, or maybe people in this day and age are I digress.
Hmm.
As far as Sam is concerned, I feel like she was the kind of character that maybe I was supposed to take some time to warm up to, because at one point they take a nod at the Mary Sutra and someone tries to ask what it is. They're like, you don't want to know. And I kind of got the sense that they were doing a show don't tell thing, because Sam has some Mary Sue traits, but it's toned down enough that you can still like her. And first, like, okay, it's just going to come down to the third act. Is she going to be heroic enough to win me over? And she ultimately was. And I kind of liked the way she was brooding throughout the movie, because it was a bit comical and like still believable because of her performance and her chemistry with Jenna Ortega. Because like, I guess I'm a sucker for that whole familial bond thing, and they were very believable as sisters, and I was really rooting for them to reconcile. And I also is real Nev Campbell and Courtney Cox weren't in it as much, because Dewey was telling them don't come here, and for one, he was like, want to. Just after a while, I'm like, it just felt things they were building up to. I kind of had a feeling they might not be as much if plating making more movies, but I feel like I've been rambling a bit about this.
No. Ramble, please, ramble. I want you guys to ramble as much as possible. Talk. This is the part where you get to talk, and I just like to listen.
It's so to unpack, because it's also like the opening scene really hooked me. I thought that was an ingenious way to approach it and reimagine Drew Barrymore's scene. Also, towards the end, like, I don't know which performance you were talking about that you didn't like. I don't know if we'd agree on that, but there was one character who really turned up their performance. It kind of made the move, like, it took it over the edge. Like, I kind of like it when characters choose scenery sometimes, especially if you can tell that they're having fun, that they really got into that role. And as my acting teacher would say, they spent it all. And pretend like you've got $20 in your pocket and you've only got one day to spend it, and that's how you should treat an acting performance.
Okay. I can totally see that. Yeah, like the character, I don't even want to. I can't say who it is, but yeah, I can't get into any more detail. But I know exactly what you're saying. I get it. Maybe we just have maybe we'll have a brief. Maybe I'll ask people to leave for like 5 minutes for those who haven't seen the movie that want to see the movie, and then come back after 5 minutes after we're done talking. And then I'll have people like come back, because I do want to. I mean, it's hard because I want to talk about the ending.
I don't mind. I didn't see it, but I don't plan on seeing it.
If people don't mind, if you want
to,
if you want to stick around, we'll get to it. I just want everyone to have their general thoughts, and then we could talk about the big, there's a couple big reveals, and so maybe I'll have to adjust this, not a non-spoiler. I'll do like non-spoiler quotation marks, except for the last however many minutes. But yeah, we'll talk about the ending, and we'll talk about certain other things after everyone gets their general thoughts done. So there'll be a thing like, okay, this will be spoiler stuff. So just putting it out there right now. But you have any other thoughts, Casfe? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, that's okay. I think that covers most. Sure, whatever else I have will come to me as we go along.
Yeah, no, we'll definitely touch on it. Well, Thunder Lee, I know that you have also seen this movie. Your general thoughts, positives, negatives.
I am more positive about this movie.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to just get into the negatives real quick.
Okay.
There is a pacing issue. I do agree with that. I even said that like after the movie when I was I went into the Ice Nine Kills fan board thing. They have like their own social media app, and when I was putting my thoughts, I was like, there's a pacing issue that I just didn't like, and there's a certain scene in the movie that it hypes up, and then it's like nothing comes out of it until the very end of the scene, and I'm like, don't play with me like that.
I know exactly what you're referring to, and at first I thought it was funny, and after a while I was like, all right, the joke's not funny anymore.
Yeah,
so like I know exactly what you're talking about.
Way too many times they did that in that one scene.
Yeah, that didn't work for me.
Yeah, like the first 2 times were alright, but then when you go in like 3 or 4 times, I'm like, all right.
It was like 5 times. It was like 5 times they did that. And I was like,
yeah,
you can stop that now. But keep going. I'm sorry.
So that was like one of my negatives. I really didn't care for certain characters in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I really didn't care for Wes at all. And like it might be just me because I've seen Dylan Minnette in a lot of movies.
Very recognizable. Yeah.
He's in so many. Like, oh yeah, I'm a high schooler, bro. You're 25 at this point. I'm so tired of seeing you as a high schooler. You've been. I've seen in the movies where he's in high school that he's killed people. He's got his ass kicked. He's been played on so many times. I'm just like, when do you get to go outside of that? And I don't know if it's just him or it's just whoever is just hiring him, but I'm just tired of him being in high school.
Yeah, it's part of his shtick. That's just how he's getting work.
Yeah.
I do think he's underwritten in the movie.
Yeah. Another one that I really couldn't care for was Sonia Ben on Mar. That's her name. She's kind of the love interest to one of the Meeks characters.
To Chad. Oh yeah, but okay, there's something funny with her. I get what you're saying, but I think almost that was on purpose. But at the same time, it's still like, well, you're still boring.
Yeah, like
yeah, I get what you're saying.
I wasn't a big fan of her, but like they did kind of like they did do that. Like, oh yeah, you're boring. I'm like, yeah. And it's so funny because like throughout that whole movie, I wasn't a fan of her, and then like towards the last like part of the movie, she got that one good scene where she has dialogue, and I'm like, wow, now you just give it to her. When it comes to the Meeks, it's hit or miss because I actually do like the brother more than the sister. Even though the sister has really good scenes, I just like the brother more because he's more comedic than anything. The sister, I feel like if they did another movie, I want more time with her because she's almost there to being a good character to me, but you know, it is what it is.
Oh, if I could just interject with the Meeks. No, I agree with you. I just feel like, okay, these are the niece and nephew of Randy, who is like one of the most charismatic characters of this franchise. You know, like, you know, Jimmy Kennedy did a great job in those first two movies. I know he's a cameo in 3, but like he does so well, and because he's the one, he is the character that brings up all the tropes and the rules and stuff like that. And these characters, his niece and nephew, and more so his niece, also do too. But I just didn't feel like they had the charisma. It just didn't. It wasn't hitting for me. I was like, I see what you're doing here, but it just feels a little inauthentic. Personally,
yeah.
Keep going. I'm sorry.
Especially like because the sister has that moment in the movie.
Yes,
and it
fell flat for me.
It fell flat for me too. But it was kind of a cool moment, in my opinion, because like you do have interactions with other characters that are hilarious. So, you know, from one bad part of that scene to another good part, you know, that scene's kind of just mid to me. But well, I don't want to bring up this other character because he's kind of like the former love interest to the brother's girlfriend. But am I spoiling that? Was that a spoiler?
What are you talking? I'm sorry.
The Vince character.
Oh, I forgot about him.
But,
well, don't talk about his history. That's all I'll say.
Okay, I kind of did a little bit, but when it comes to love interest, but he's just there for a body count.
Sure.
This character's in there that's just there for a body count, honestly, and it's like, all right, but I want to go into the positives because I love the deaths in this movie. This deaths is like quick to the point. And there's deaths that freaking cut deep. And it feels brutal, but it's not gory. Like, you do see blood, but it's not as, like, gory as, like, Scream 1 and 4. Because Scream 1 and 4, you see, like, guts and stuff. Like, this new Scream is just pure blood. So, I like it. I like Jenna Ortega. She just sells everything that happened to her, and man, that first scene is just brutal. I like Jack Quaid a lot in this movie.
Jack Quaid is very good.
Yeah, he brings the comedy to like this one part in the movie where he.
Let's not get into spoilers, though. Let's be careful of that.
I'm not gonna. Oh man, I'm so sorry. Like his reactions to like everything's hilarious. David Arquette is basically the standout in this film. I love that he is as you said, the rundown character.
Yeah, he's sad dad. Dewey. He's sad dad. Dewey. He's like this.
Yeah, and he has like a badass part. I also I want to, because I love Roger L. Jackson in this movie. I feel like to me, I felt like he had the biggest part. Like he wasn't overshadowed like he was in the last couple of sequels. Like he had more talking parts in the movie that I enjoyed, and it's like he's more menacing in this movie than he was in the sequels. So, like, if we could just continue that for Roger L. Jackson, because I love him as a voice actor. He's like one of my favorites up there. And when I could get to like Sam Carpenter, I don't hate her. I actually do like her. Like, yeah, she has dark moments, but you know, overall acting wise, I really do like it. I really do like her character a lot. So there's that. But other than that, yeah, I was kind of a little disappointed that there was not very little, but there was not enough Cindy and Gale. But that kind of makes sense too. If anybody watches the film, you'll know. But
yeah, I get it. I mean, they also have the marketing though. I mean, they focus on the marketing, like they're in most of the marketing, and so it's like I see what you did here. You're trying to get people to go just because I mean, people want to see what the legacy characters are up to, and and it's I know that you want to move the story on to new people and what they're doing. It's just, but if you do that, my only request is you need to make them as interesting, if not more interesting, than the series' original protagonist. You have to do that. I mean, I think that's necessary.
I think, like, because the sisters are going to be practically the main part if they make another film, which
maybe.
When we get to spoilers, I do feel like they are going to make another film, but like I felt like that both of them were interesting enough to warrant that sequel. But they still got to elevate the Meeks.
Yeah, if they choose to bring them back.
Yeah. But other than that, like, I enjoyed when it comes to this. When you said the CGI, I didn't hate it. Okay. I did not hate it. I thought more positive about that. So, yeah.
Okay.
But that's everything.
That's your general thoughts overall. You liked it. You liked it.
I liked it. I'm still debating whether or not I should rank it above, because this feels more like a Scream film than the other ones.
Which ones?
Than the sequels. Yeah.
Really interesting.
Like, I'm not a big fan of 2. I like 4 a lot, but it has its problems. I don't like 3. 3's dumb. But I would have to rewatch the movie over again if I want to re-rank those films. So I'm just gonna put it like right in the middle of 4 and 2.
Well, if I just 4 and 2, gotcha. You know, that might be fun to do before we go ahead and move on to the spoiler discussion. Which again, thank you for those of you who are here right now who were not able to see the movie. Sorry, we're going to do the video game stuff in a bit, but now we can go ahead and talk about this. So we're going to go to the spoiler stuff in just a bit. I'll let you know. There's like now spoilers, but I wanted to ask everyone, what's your personal ranking of the Scream movies? If Van, we'll start with Vanny.
So I've only seen the first film, and I'm kind of, particularly with my horror films in general, like usually they need to have like kind of a comedy stint to it, which Scream absolutely nailed. But usually when we start talking about like sequels, I kind of just say like I grew up with like the Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees kind of stuff, and it's like, again, that's kind of been sort of my mentality. So like I got into horror films like right when Scream was coming out, so I was starting to get a little bit burned out with those. So when they announced like Scream 2, it's like, it's the same mentality. It's like, again, like I just really didn't care. And it just like I started moving on to other films and stuff too. My friends weren't really into horror films either, so I actually have to go off y'all's recommendations. So it sounds like it's like maybe like 1, 2, 4, 3, and then just curious where you guys kind of rank this one. But that was a question I was going to ask you guys, those who've seen it, is for somebody like myself who has only seen the first one and it's been well over 20 years. Is this a film I could like walk back into and be like, okay, I can follow along, or I'm engaged enough with this, or nah? Or should I do like a movie marathon at some point?
Like the entire series you're talking about?
Yeah. Like, is it necessary, or can I just appreciate the film for what it is?
Oh, for this one? I will say no. I mean, if you watch the first one and you go into this one, you'll get most of what they're talking about. They do. I mean, maybe, probably, because that's kind of what the critique is as well. It's a critique on like the requels, if you will. It's a reboot, but it's a sequel where it's focusing on maybe a particular film's past events. It's mostly the original Screams, but I feel like you want to get like a better sense of just the. I mean, I would say watch them all. I would really encourage you to watch them all, because I still think 2 holds up very well. I think 2 is great. 3 is the one where I'm like, yeah, I don't whatever. But 4, I think is super underappreciated. Is also great. So I would actually tell you to watch all those. Maybe I think if you're a fan of all of these past movies, even if you really love 3, you just love Scream, you're gonna get a lot out of this one. I think. I feel like that. I would encourage you to do so, unless anyone feels differently. I'm curious.
Well, for me, because for me, because I watched Scream 1 before to watch the new one, and I felt like they were just focusing on the original and 4 because Judy Hicks is in the movie, but I still would encourage you to just marathon all the movies, because they're all just a continuous story. So just marathon all of them. They're not bad, well, except for 3, but all of them not bad movies.
Okay.
So for me, I can't see this movie just because of COVID, but I have heard spoilers, and I won't say any of them right now. But I think for my ranking, and I guess I don't want to rank this movie, it's either 2, 1, 4, 3, and I think my big fear about this movie, and I have one question to ask about it, but I'll ask that in spoilers, because it's not really
Sure.
it's just a question about 4.
Mm-hmm.
I think the problem with 4, and this is a slight spoiler for that movie, is it doesn't really do, like, the reason I think I like 2 is it actually has stakes, and it killed a fan favorite character, and I think that's a bold move for a franchise to do. And I think problems with these movies, it's like you can't sometimes Sydney, Gale, and Dewey, because they're the free faces, they can feel invincible in some of the movies just because they can't, they're
Sure.
the star,
Sure.
So I'm interested to see, I guess, what this one does with it. And also, I think I think the reason I don't like 4 is it seems like it's trying to pass the torch to Hated Pantier, but it doesn't really do that, which because she feels like the true final girl. Like, she actually earns the final girl of the movie, but she doesn't really get that.
Well, she's
Like,
the
that's
most
what that
interesting
movie's about.
of those new characters. She's
Yeah.
certainly the female characters. But I think that's also. I mean, I want you to listen to a Scream 4 discussion, but there's a reason why Jill in that movie, Jill Roberts' character, is the way she is. But no, keep going. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, of course, Chris. I just mean I think Jill Roberts, her plot was just, I want it to be, she wants to be that. And
Yeah.
I think and that's the reason I think it's just a little bit lower for me. And is that I think it should have been the person who actually became the final girl takes her out. But
No, I get that. No, I understand that. Well, I wanted, because we just had Vanny. You only seen the original Scream, so that's I forgot, because you probably were on a Scream discussion. Because you had seen the movie recently. You saw it right when we did our review for it on Discourse, right?
Myself?
Was it you, or did you see that in the 90s?
I saw it in the 90s.
Oh, okay, never mind.
Yeah,
I think I'm thinking of someone else then.
Sorry, yeah, no, it's been so long. Like I know you had brought that one up. I think I was still in the middle of my Endwalker pilgrimage, so I missed out on a few discourses.
Okay. Yeah, I think I might have to think of someone else. But moving on. Well, I wanted to ask just everyone's rankings, and we'll go in the spoiler discussion. If you want to stay here, feel free. Then we're going to come back. We're going to do our best video games of 2021. But Luke the Boss, how would you rank the Scream movies?
I'd say 1. It could alternate between 3 or 4, and then 5, and
where would you put 2?
Last.
3's last. So what was your rankings again? Because you said 3 and 4 originally.
No,
so where
I
would
said,
you put
okay,
2?
So number one is the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, the second spot could alternate between 4 and 2.
Gotcha.
Because I don't know which, just depending on which one I've seen last, I guess. But and then from there, it would be 5, and then 3's last. So yeah. So it just depends on what day it is. 3. I mean, the third spot could alternate between 4 and 2. So
gotcha. M. Xavier, about yourself, how would you rank the Scream movies, or at least the ones that you've seen?
Oh, I made it back just in time.
No, you're good.
But
Nice.
I mean, I've only seen the first one, so
okay.
I'd say
So
the first
1 is number 1.
There
That's
you go.
simple. I like it, to the point. Very good. Kazfae, how would you rank the Scream movies now?
Well, I guess 1 and 2, followed by, I'm tempted to say 5, although I've said before 5 and 4 are close for me. And then 3 would be at the bottom, although I still like that movie for what it is. I mean, I can handle it when movies get a little goofy, because then I can just watch them ironically. But yeah, I mean, 3 is the worst of the series.
Very good. Very good. Thunder Lee, how would you rank them?
The first movie, and then it gets weird here. So for 2022, the second one, and then the third one, but that would change at any time whenever I get to see the movie again. So
fair enough.
Yeah.
Austin, how would you currently rank them?
Oh, I thought I said mine earlier.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot. We'll do it again because I don't remember.
Well, I'll do it again just for you, Chris.
Thank you.
So it was 2, 1,
That's
4, and then 3.
That's it. Very good. Very good. Thank you. I'm sorry, I forgot. I forgot when we were talking before. Well, I gotta rank mine. I'll go ahead and rank mine. Then we'll jump into spoilers, and I'll say spoiler time. But if I had to rank them, I would go 1, 2, 4, 5, and then 3. That's how I would rank them as of right now. But now we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna dip into spoilers. I know a lot of us have a lot to say. So if anyone here currently is part of the Discourse, if you need to step out, feel free to do so. We'll come back after a few minutes, and then we'll eventually move on to the video game discussion. But a couple of the things that we probably want to talk about, obviously, is the killers. Who is Ghostface in this movie, or Ghostfaces? It's plural yet again. And the 2 killers are Jack Quaid and Amber, their friend Amber in the film, played by Mikey Madison. And you've seen this actress before if you've watched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And I want to comment on something with her in a bit, but especially because of how she goes out in this movie, it's very similar to something what happens in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But we'll touch on that in a bit. Maybe I thought maybe that was
I know what you're talking about.
You know exactly what I'm talking about.
I just realized what you're talking about.
I kind of can't believe what I'm seeing. But how is everyone's reactions to Jack Quaid and Mikey Madison of Amber, them being the killers, and their motivation of being 2 toxic pieces of shit?
For me personally, because I was on the camp with you that I was hoping that Stu would show up.
Fuck, I was hoping that, man. I was hoping. It didn't happen. Stu is not in this movie. He's referenced a lot of Billy, but he's not in the movie.
But
Lillard?
Yeah. But I was like initially upset, but then like as the scene progressed, and as they're telling the motives and stuff about how much they love the films, like the stab films, the fake movies. That's
The movies within
a
the
movie.
movies within the
Yeah.
movies. Yes.
So like at this rate, I think when this film is out, it's Stab 8, where if you saw the trailers and stuff that was shown in the movie, it was, oh yeah, Ghostface is now have a silver mask, which that mask is badass. I don't know why
Chrome
people
face.
Chrome face, that is awesome. Like any Ghostface mask is awesome.
Mhm.
I'm just gonna go out there and say that. But they were like, oh, they traded his knife for a flamethrower. Like it was like they really got upset with the amount of changes, and then they mentioned Ryan Johnson made the movie, and it's like,
What?
I missed that.
yeah, they mentioned that Ryan Johnson,
Oh, that's fucking funny. I missed that line. That's brilliant.
the guy from Knives Out, yeah, that movie. And it's like, oh yeah, there was like quotes in there that was like toxic, like they were saying like stuff like
They were all their dialogue was like a Reddit forum.
yeah, it was like
That's
a
what it
Reddit
was. I
forum.
was like,
Yeah.
oh, I see what you're doing. I thought that was quite brilliant.
And the more they was talking about their like their motives, the more I'm like, man, this is so damn believable at this point. Because
Yeah,
it's
no,
like
I bought their motivations.
we're literally experiencing this firsthand. As we're moving on with internet and it's evolving even more, and Reddit is becoming more toxic. Places like YouTube comment sections is getting more toxic. And I think it was a good critique on that stuff, to be honest. Like even now, like I've been seeing this popping up on Twitter now. There's people pissed off about that specifically, their motives. Like, bro, you're just proving their point a little bit, though.
Yeah, no, I know that's gonna be a very contentious reveal in the movie. Is because the people who are gonna get mad about it, people that the movie's commenting on, which I think is very amusing. No, I thought that motivation, because I know some people were just like, again, I think it's gonna be the same case before. Like people are like, oh, their motivation, that wasn't me. I didn't buy it. Like I totally buy it here. I bought it back then. I buy it now for this one. So it makes sense.
Especially Reddit.
Yeah, Reddit, totally. Catsby, what are your opinions on the reveal that was Jack Quaid and Mikey Madison?
Well, as far as I pretty much called it from the beginning, as soon as it was revealed that she was unharmed after the opening scene, that never happens in a Scream movie.
Yeah.
If there's a second person involved, doesn't matter if they won the game or no. It just, but they kept me guessing with that basement scene with Mindy, where all of a sudden she's like, "I'm the killer." And it's kind of like, oh, which one of them could it be? Like that. I think they did that on purpose because to me, Amber seemed obvious. But the way Mikey Madison, especially once the other reveal was made with Richie, my first thought was like, okay, that's interesting, but how the fuck did this happen? How did they meet each other? What's going on? And once they started to explain it as they went, and it didn't feel too expository. It was basically, I don't know, they just kept getting gradually crazier with it, especially Mikey Madison, and it just felt believable. It felt like something that's out of Reddit.
Yeah, no, exactly. I totally bought their motivation. And when it comes to performances, I like what Jack Quaid did. Mikey Madison, for a reason, I guess it was just because she's playing her character from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. That's what I was just seeing. And then when I was like, is that the girl from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood who was the complete and total psychopath from that movie? She's the one that gets that is set on fire by Leonardo DiCaprio at the end of the film. And she gets set on fire in this movie. I'm like, all right. I don't know. I just felt like I didn't really get to know her so much in the movie, whereas maybe in past killers. But at the same time, I mean, I didn't get to really know, Debbie Salt, who was Billy Loomis's mother. I don't know. Something about her performance. I didn't jive with it personally. Whereas with Jack Quaid, I liked his performance a lot more.
She seemed more aggressive to Sam throughout the whole movie, which I'm like, that is so fucking annoying, in my opinion. Sorry for cursing in this, but like, bro, she was straight up a bitch in this movie. So like, it it was gonna be like, yeah, she's one of the killers.
Luke the Boss, what do you think of the reveal?
I thought it was. I saw it coming with Amber.
Mm-hmm.
With Jack, I was kind of hit and miss because first I was like, he is kind of playing it like so naive that it's almost like,
Right.
yeah, he's
Got you
got
off the trail.
but then it went in and out with me. But then towards the end, whenever she goes for the closet, she finds him in the closet. I'm like, okay, it's him. I don't care what he says. I don't care what he tries to. I'm like, yeah, he's definitely part of this. And but no, like I liked his character. Like his character throughout the whole movie. Yeah, great. You know?
No, I really enjoyed him. I just felt like,
but
no, I'm sorry, keep going.
Oh no, but also they totally glossed over this, but man, because they said they met on blogs or whatever, but like she's supposed to be like, she's underage and she's all calling him babe and everything. Like, dang, Jack Quaid, you gotta be a child predator now too. Add that on top of being a murderer and stuff. Like, dang.
I felt it was implied that I mean, yeah, it's probably it too. Who knows? I mean, I guess she is high school. Yeah, because they're in high school, and he's definitely around. He's supposed to be probably in his 20s with because he's with Sam's character. You know, in the beginning of the film. Yeah, you know, it's I think the Amber character, even though we've had past Ghostfaces where they've hardly been in the movie. It's funny because, you know, you think about Laura Metcalf. I guess I did the whole reveal of her being connected to Billy's mother and things. I was like, oh shit, and how she was really aping up in the at the end of 2. I don't know. I just her Mikey Madison's performance just didn't sit well with me. Whereas Jack Quaid's I like quite a bit, but I totally bought their motivations and everything. That all made sense to me and what they're commenting on. Another thing, did anyone else want to bring up anything in regards to the 2 killers in the film? Because there's like about 2 other things I wanted to mention.
Can I want to mention, because there was a line that Amber has said. She was like, "Oh, I'm young. I was radicalized." I'm like, wait, like, because it could go like, "Oh, I've been looking at all these forums and I agree with them," or there's someone out there who's spouting stuff who has a stronger message about
So is your question like, do they, and this is something I was gonna ask, do you think they leave it open if they do a Scream 6 for Matthew Lillard to come back?
Maybe. They don't, I mean, I don't know at this point. I feel like this would have been the movie to do that. But now I'm not so sure. Now I'm like, they're probably not going to do that now. But you know, I mean, well, there's all I'll say is there's a lack of legacy characters now, so they want to bring back new legacy character we haven't seen in a while. They could do that, but with the radicalization, like Amber's motivation is very similar to Stu. She's like the Stu-esque character of the movie, where she's like, oh please, I didn't know what I was doing. It was peer pressure and shit. I mean, like I see what they were doing there. I was like, oh, I see what you're referencing. I did love her whole bit though when she goes outside. And she's like, I've been horribly stabbed, call the police. And, you know, Gail and Sydney are like, so she's faking, right? And you're like, oh yeah. And they start shooting at her. I thought that was pretty fucking cool. But they definitely open it. If they want to, they could bring back a character like Stu. Because there was a couple lines in the movie where even like David Arquette kept saying this line. It's like, they're not dead until you shoot them in the head. They're not dead until you do that. And I was like, well, Stu didn't get shot in the head. Ooh. I thought that it was going to, I thought that because they put such emphasis on it in a particular scene, but whatever.
Someone's going to say, oh, they dropped the TV on his head. Well, like,
I mean, that part where Ghostface was like, it's an honor. It did have me wondering, like, that felt personal. But then that ending scene, her performance made me believe, okay, that's why she said that. And when she faced off with, I think that really added more to it because it was personal, you know?
Yeah, no, definitely. And she was excited saying that it was an honor because she's a fan. That's what it is, which I thought was funny. So agreed.
Switched up for this.
I'm sorry?
Because we all thought it was, no, I just, that's another thing. Like, because whenever we saw that trailer, we think it's about
Oh,
Cindy,
Sydney.
but ends up being about somebody else.
Dewey. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. At that point, Sydney's not even in the movie. I mean, she has a small scene beforehand, but it's she doesn't really she's not in the movie until
Yeah.
the last third of the film. Couple of things I wanted
But I
to
don't believe. Sorry.
go ahead, Luke.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, yeah. If I had to make one comment about Amber being the killer, I just didn't find it believable that she's the one who killed Dewey. I was like, because she says it, she makes an emphasis that she's like, yeah, I looked into his eyes. He's the last thing that that he saw was me, and I was like, I just don't. I mean, I know that she did it, but I'm just saying, like, I just like that's not believable to me that he couldn't overpower her. But I don't know.
Yeah. There were a couple, since mentioning Dewey, Dewey does die in the movie. He is the legacy character they kill off in pretty dramatic and bloody fashion, where he's stabbed from the stomach and in the back, and just the Ghostface, Amber in this case, just guts him from both ends. He's the one that died. Like I said, I think David Arquette, of all the legacy characters they brought back, he had the best performance, and I'm like, they're gonna kill him. He's so fucking sad in this movie. He's getting the most screen time, so like, okay, you're gonna kill him. And I was like, that's because I'm thinking they're gonna do one big one. There's gonna be one huge death, and I thought it was handled well. How would everyone feel about the death of Dewey?
For me, I'm like, it was obvious from the start that he was gonna die because they played his the charming music that they always play when they show Dewey, which is my favorite, and they played the song, the westernish song from Scream 2 when Dewey was in like a sound studio hunting for Ghostface. So they played those two, and I'm like, man, they're gonna kill him off. But when they did, I was a little bit surprised because the kill was they kind of like had spoiled the kill, not like Dewey's death, but the kill itself was that they had used that as marketing for in Call of Duty as an execution. So I was surprised about that. But like the death of Dewey itself, that fucking cut me. I was upset. I literally did cry because he was my favorite character out of all those movies. You know, you could relate to the character and all that, and he the fact that he died because he got distracted of because Gale called him, that cuts even more. Like, damn.
Literally in his case.
Yeah. Like, and then not of that, like right before that, him and Gale had a conversation about.
They had a good scene.
Yeah.
Together.
They had a conversation about what really happened between both of them rifting apart. So
yeah. Did anyone else have anything they want to say about the death of Dewey? Casfe?
Well, like that thing with him and Gale, that was, you knew that it was coming and that was going to happen soon, because it's like you get closure that early in a movie, it's time to go. Like, and it just, I'm glad that he got a heroic death. It wasn't like undignified, in my opinion. It was brutal, but at least like they didn't show every detail of it as they would have like with a background character. And it's just, I don't know, watching him go down that hallway and ready to face off against Ghostface. And I think like he had a feeling that he would die. Like, I guess I feel like he didn't care, but it's like, I kind of love how everyone just could tell that he aged in plot armor. Like, I think the writers did a good job of preparing us for that moment, because if it had just been an out of nowhere thing, if he had just been that same bumbling cop that he always was, everyone would have rioted.
Yeah. It would have felt cheap. And this one, it's like the death was earned, and you felt it. You felt it. I totally agree. And I love how they just made him. He was so sad in that movie, and he's so beaten down. It was great. Yeah, that was one of the highlights of the film, and they handled his death very well.
He went out as like a badass in that movie. Like, there was a line in that Gale scene with him that said he felt like he was the coward, and she said no. And what happened? He wasn't the coward when he was facing Ghostface in his death scene. So
Yeah. There's two other things I want to mention. One, Casfe. You told me this. We were messaging on Facebook, and you saw this, and I completely missed it. And it's I think it's even something that you were curious about too, Austin. And it's the fate of Kirby. Casfe, if you want to go ahead in the details about it, because you were the one who pointed out to me.
Well, actually, I didn't see it either in theaters. I wish I had. There's a freeze frame bonus in the scene where Richie is watching the YouTube videos telling Sam, like, oh, you're right, this stab movie really is shit. And he's watching YouTube reviews, a suggestion and a thumbnail and everything for another video. And it says interview with Woodsboro survivor Kirby Reed.
Hey.
So they do say that she lived, which I'm happy about. I mean, I would have loved to have had Hayden Panettiere come back as a character in this movie, or have people, at least as we were saying, Cassie, just talking about her, because she's a fan favorite. People really like her in that fourth film. She's one of the standouts, and who knows? They might if they continue this on. They continue making these movies. I mean, hey, you put it out there. It's like now she can come back, and honestly, I think that might be for the best if they bring her back, get some more personality in it.
Can I also bring up something? I'm so sorry. This also brings back to Dewey. Someone had pointed this out when I was watching a YouTube video earlier, that there's a like the cremation vases, whatever they're called.
Urns?
Urns. There we go. I'm so sorry about that. Dewey has his sister's ashes.
Oh, is that in this trailer?
Yeah.
Yeah, Tatum, Rose McGowan's character from the first one. I didn't see that. So yeah, there's all those little things in the back you might miss, but eagle-eyed fans be able to spot them. So that's cool. No, I like that. There's probably a many more little references and Easter eggs in the background that people will discover. And that's actually the last thing I wanted to talk about. And then before we move on to our favorite video games of 2021. So another big reveal in the movie is that Sam Carpenter, who is the lead of the film, she is the daughter of Billy Loomis, of Skeet Ulrich's character from the first movie, where apparently in high school, Billy had gotten this girl pregnant, and the mother of Sam kept it secret. And for many years, and Sam found out about this, and actually a very well acted scene between her and Jenny Ortega, and she just reveals all this information. And I thought, like, okay, that makes sense. You're bringing back, like, it's always something from the past. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. And I was like, fine that you saying this, and I was like, oh shit, she does look like Skeet Ulrich. I was like, oh wow, I really saw it. However, the way in which they kept showcasing, or the way in which they revealed she was the daughter of Billy really bothered me, because Skeet Ulrich comes back in this movie, and he comes back as a drug-induced guilt ghost is the only way I can think of him. Where he literally shows up and talks to her, and I know, I get it. It's like, it's her own guilt, it's her insecurity, it's her drug addiction, everything, it's the effect on her mind. But and he has multiple scenes, and they're short, but the CGI, I'm sorry, for me at least, it does not work. I was like, this does not look good. I just don't like it, and I would have almost just preferred they just had audio, which Wes Craven did, and like even in the lesser Scream film, in Scream 3, where he had Matthew Lillard's dialogue come back, and Billy Loomis's, Skeet Ulrich's dialogue come back when Sidney's exploring the house in 3, in the mock house. I just did not like the CGI for Billy Loomis. And listen, I'm not Skeet Ulrich is an older man now. He's probably 50. If not older at this point, much like Nev Campbell. And there's obvious aging. And if you can't cover that up, if you can't make it look good, then don't do it. And that really, I'm sorry, but it took me out. I was like, and I don't need like weird ghost haunting me. And I was like, all right, you bring something in that the Scream franchise just doesn't really has. Well, and they have had it. They had it in 3 with Sidney's mother, and that didn't work at the time. But what's everyone's opinion on Ghost Billy Loomis?
It was weird. So, I mean, they could have toned it down a little, and I agree it would have worked better with the audio. It wasn't the CGI part that put me off, just like you said, it's something different that Scream doesn't usually do.
Yeah.
Although at the same time, I feel like it's like I said before about how Sam has some very subtle like Mary Sue qualities and like she's kind of over dramatic compared to the other characters. I kind of felt like maybe it was a light pair.
Maybe that was the case. Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought you want something. You have something to say?
The CGI did not bother me. I mean, like I thought it was kind of cool that he was back. It did throw me off guard a little bit. Like, wait, why is Skeet Ulrich here? And then they explained it, and then I didn't mind it. I actually love Skeet's acting in this, to be honest. So like that's the one thing I'm kind of like passing by. Like, I didn't mind it. I thought it was good for the story, and like you said, it is her personal guilt of the fact that she's
it's a guilt ghost.
Yeah, like she's the daughter of a freaking serial killer. So,
which I wonder if they're gonna play that up then in the future if they do choose to do future movies. Because he's almost like helping her at times though, which I'm like, I don't know about this. Like at the end when she's battling Jack Quaid's character, and like the ghost is like, "Hey, Sam, the knife's over there." He's like, "Hey." I'm like, all right, that wasn't work. That wasn't working for me.
It's like he wanted her to kill. Like that. Yeah. That was the whole thing. She was afraid of becoming him.
Sure, I get that. I understand that.
Yeah.
It's just, I just felt like it was so I just didn't need that. You could have had that. You know, that would have been, again, subtlety, which is what the Scream franchise, I mean, sometimes it's subtle, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it has to be broad and obvious, and they have to be direct to the audience. But that was the thing. It's such a weird element to bring in this franchise, which I just didn't. That's like, what honestly, I feel like they would bring that to a lesser franchise or one that has been on the way out for quite some time. It just felt like such a weird inclusion, and I felt like you could have handled that better. Where what if she revealed that I found this out about myself and I'm afraid that I'm going to hurt you, which kind of almost does, where she's saying like, I'm related to the most famous killer from this franchise, all these events happening, Billy Loomis, and I was afraid that I would turn into something like him or become him. And you can almost have that where you don't need the ghost, you don't need Billy Loomis' ghost. It just felt like they were just like, see, haha. It's like we're putting up there. She's afraid to be him. It's like, yes, you could have done that through dialogue. I would have preferred another scene of her talking to Jenny Ortega, or really, honestly, her talking to Sydney. Because that's one thing that's another thing that bothered me, is that she's like, I want to talk to you. Like at all. Nev Campbell's like, okay. Like, had she really, like, I'm scared about this. Because I am, and that you can bring in fucking Sydney's history to that, talking about Billy Loomis. I thought they were going to do that, and then she's like, "Nope, we're going to go to the car." I thought that would have been really cool had she had another scene that she had with Jenny Ortega, but now it's with Sydney, who has such a complicated history of Billy Loomis. Obviously, that would work better for me. I'm just speaking for myself than CGI Skeet Ulrich. So
yeah,
but
and it's funny because, you know, when it comes to like the daughter of Billy, I was just thinking about this. Like, yeah, it makes sense that he would have gotten another girl pregnant because Sydney wasn't really having sex with him. She was still devastated over the loss of her mother, and she was going through all that stuff. So, you know, like I said, it's one of those things where I don't mind. But to you, it's probably gonna bother you.
Well, no. The thing that doesn't bother me, the idea that he got another girl pregnant, because we saw in the original Scream, he's talking to all those other women. Yeah, like he's clearly, you know, because he's so horny, he can't control himself. And like, no, I buy that. That I have no problem with, like her being the daughter of Billy Loomis. That doesn't bother me at all. Much in the same way, like I'm not bothered that Laurie Metcalf is revealed to be the mother of Billy Loomis. That's fine. You know, just make it work. You just sell it through the performance, sell it through the dialogue. I just didn't feel like they sold it well through a CGI effect. I didn't need him to come back. You could have just spoken about him and the goddamn traumatic effect that he and Stu had on all these people for 25 years. Like they were still wounded, you know, psychologically, emotionally, obviously physically, from these two guys that did that. And I felt like had they just been more subtle about it and not relied on something that took away, honestly, the CGI took away from it, from the trauma and just how interesting that would be. But that's how I feel.
Do you think it would have been worse if Sydney would have saw Billy?
I mean, I don't want anyone to see Billy. I just don't. I don't want that to happen at all. It's like if you're gonna talk about it, like just talk about him. Just do it that way, which they have done in the previous films, and it's always worked when they bring him up, whether it be with his mother in 2 or even in 3 or even even in 4 when people reference him, and Stu. But does anyone have any last words? I know this has turned into a long conversation about Scream, which I figured it might, as soon as we said spoilers, but I know he wants to talk about it. And we're going to get into video games in just a bit. It's going to be a long discourse tonight, folks. But did anyone else want to mention?
The character of Vince. He is the nephew of Stu Macher.
Oh, yeah. That's because everyone who died is related to a character from the previous movies, right?
Yeah. So
right.
That's what I wanted to say earlier, but I couldn't say it.
Gotcha. Yeah, with the Vince character. Did anyone else want to bring anything up beforehand before we go ahead and move on to the video game section of Discourse? It'll be episode 15.
Well, just one last thing. I would say the thing that for me right now elevates the movie above Scream 4 is that with this one there were more clear-cut survivors, like especially the Meeks twins, whereas in Scream 4 it was like who's the torch to? Like the trailer made it out like we had a new group of people to pass the torch to, but we could, for all we knew, everyone was dead. So I just wanted to say that, like, with this one, sorry, my cat's up here right now. but I was
totally fine.
But anyway, I just like when they had that reveal of both of the Meeks Martin twins being okay. I was, the two sisters like Sam and Jenna Ortega interacting with each other and bonding more. I just got this feeling like, okay, I wouldn't mind seeing them again as long as there's a good story to justify it. Whereas with Scream 4, I was like, okay, where are they going to?
Yeah, that's a fair point. No, they definitely do set it up much better in this film to have those characters take over the franchise, as opposed to, obviously in 4, where most of them are dead or they just didn't know, like with Kirby's characters. So it's a very good point. Very good point. Anyone else want to say something before we go ahead and transition over to the next part?
For me, I feel like I'm very interested to see what's next coming from Scream, because now we have, newer people. Possibility that Cindy's not really gonna come back, and Gail. Like, I feel like their stories are done. Kirby possibly returning could be a thing that could interest me, but there would have to be like a big reasoning for why the next set of killings are happening and what's the meta behind that one. So yeah
now we'll find out. I'm interested if they continue this on, which I wouldn't be surprised if they do. I want them to have a very good idea. I don't know if they'll. I'm very curious what they would critique on next. What would they talk about? Because all of those previous films, they were commenting on something. Original one was obviously horror tropes. Second one was sequels, of course, critiquing sequels. Third one was critiquing the end of a trilogies, and also Hollywood. The fourth one was critiquing remakes and reboots in social media, and this one, of course, was fandom and toxic fan culture. Very interested to see.
And elevated horror.
And elevated horror, yeah. They were throwing a lot of shade at stuff like Hereditary and The Vitch and the Babadook and things, which I thought was pretty funny. But I don't know what else they could comment on. Does anyone else had? Oscar, I'm sorry, you had something you want to say.
So, did they not at all comment on Halloween 2017 or 2018?
Oh, they do.
2018.
Do? No, they talk about it. Oh yeah, they mentioned that.
I guess A24 movies is the next thing.
Yeah, I guess. Well, yeah, which they do comment on. I guess that's the term for it. I didn't know that was the term for it. I was like, elevator horror. Is that what they call it? Elevator horror? Okay, shit, interesting. Sophisticated horror, but fair enough. So I suppose so. They could continue to comment on that. I don't know what form that would take. That'd be interesting. But we'll see. Did anyone else have any speculation what they could possibly comment on in the future, or you would want to see them comment on in the future? You think that would work? Nice premise.
Streaming.
I don't know about I don't know about commenting, but to see if my spoiler, just what I thought about it. It was so the whole thing with Billy Loomis being CGI, it was cool with me. I mean, it wasn't bad. It didn't look as bad as I thought it was gonna look. And but I would have rather them if they were gonna have him in, I would have liked to put in Matthew Lillard. I mean, why not? If you're gonna have him as like a CGI ghost, might as well have Matthew Lillard in there, you know?
I would have preferred if Stu was the mastermind. I still to this day I'm like, man, I really want them to do that. What they had, the original idea for 3, what Wes Craven, Ken Williamson had, and I thought that's what again, it was my own expectations. I talked about this at the beginning. I had to put my own expectations and my own, what I wanted to the side and say, like, let's just let these filmmakers let them tell the movie that they're telling. And I'm gonna judge it based on that. But after seeing this, I still want that idea. I feel like you could do that still. But I'm sorry, you continue.
And I agree with you. And at first, I wasn't even expecting anything like Skeet Ulrich to come back or anything like that. So whenever I saw him, I was like, holy shit! Like
I was very surprised.
He's in this. Yeah, and I was like, so then I was thinking, well, I doubt they're gonna get Matthew Lillard in here, but they might as well. Like, if they're gonna do that, I'm like, yeah, just have him come back and then just be like, oh yeah, he didn't really die. I mean, because at first I was like, nah, that's a little bit too crazy. But him having a Skeet Ulrich coming back as a CGI ghost, I'm like, even though like it's in her mind, of course, but it's like, might as well. And another thing is, that was pretty crazy with because I don't think we mentioned it, but yeah, Judy Hicks is dead now, of course.
Judy was killed. Lemon squares, and they referenced her lemon squares, which I was happy about. Her and her son. Yeah. Wes also died. Yeah, and her death was Cassie, you had an interesting comment about that, about Judy's death when we were messaging each other.
Well, yeah, I just kind of had a feeling about the two of them, but also Dylan Minnette I know him from 13 Reasons Why, which is a really shitty show that I only saw one season of, but a lot of people hate it, and a lot of people hate the character that he played, and I just can't help but think that, like, that was kind of a casting gag, or he was kind of like the male Drew Barrymore of this movie, because, like, Jenna Ortega ended up living, and he was the first one out of the friend group to die. Theoretically, he could have had a bigger role, and I wondered if he would, but it's just like so many people are going to tune in to watch Clay from 13 Reasons Why get knifed.
That's funny. Oh yeah, because of his character. I'm not familiar with that show. I guess yeah, he plays an unpopular character in that, or he's a bad guy, or whatever you want to
he's supposed to be a good guy, but he just becomes more of a quote unquote nice guy. But like in this movie, I did like his character. Like, I don't know, if they'd given him more screen time, I probably could have liked him as a character. But yeah, at the same time, there was something amusing about his death.
Interesting. I wonder if that's like that was a meta commentary. Very cool. Very cool. But there you go. Wraps up our Scream 2022 discussion, which was far longer than I thought it would be. I think I'm just going to put this up as spoiler discussion. Just like, all right, here it goes. It's going to happen, just to cover my bases in case we might have mentioned something we were initially talking about. Because I'm always afraid, like, did I say something that it's a spoiler? So I'll just put up as Scream 2022 spoiler review.